The story starts with Eloise tending to the plants and being happy that they are growing. She is proud all her hard work has paid off. She smiles and thinks. Indeed, with such good results, it's no surprise considering how rich and fertile the soil is. She then concludes that's enough for today. She looks back and observes no one would ever think there's a field like this hidden in the forest. However, she stops in her tracks when she reveals she wasn't always so enthusiastic about tending this field. 14 years ago, her mother, the owner of Espencia estate, passed away, and according to the law, all her assets would be inherited by her as she is the daughter. But the Espencia's family's duchess, the wife of the Bacellan duke, seized her mother's property. After that, the duke quickly remarried and replaced all the servants in the mansion with his own people. And then, one day he decided that she seems so shocked she is being sent to the monastery for recuperation. That's how she was abandoned. She tells us there's only one path of the hill to the Vieira monastery, and with the Vieira forest and a cliff behind it, there's no way to leave the forest without passing through the monastery. When she had arrived at the monastery as a scared kid, they told her a quiet, private space must be needed for a noble lady like you, but it was an abandoned place in the forest. Since then, the monastery has sent her food every day, but it wasn't the edible that she almost starved to death before giving in. With determination on her face, she tells us it was hard enough to die, but she did not. She pretended to be sick to lessen their surveillance and survived. She would be grateful if she could continue living freely like this. That's when she notices two shadows in the distance. She's cautious suddenly when she realizes there are people from the monastery. She dashes to her room from the back door and swiftly retrieves a cloak hidden beneath the bed. She quickly wears it while they are waiting and tells her that they have brought her meal. As she opens the door, a foul stench assaults their senses. She is wearing the dirty and smelly cloak. She stammers her thanks, but they, visibly affected by the odor, advise her to stay silent, hastily hand over the food and bolt away, leaving her isolated and alone. She is frustrated and screams as she takes off her cloak, saying she cannot get used to this rotten smell no matter how many times she smells it. As she settles on her bed, she thinks that's strange. Normally only one person comes to deliver and leaves, but today there are two. She wonders if her father sent someone, but thinks why all of a sudden and needs to find out. She steps inside the mansion and sees it's even messier than before, but finds butter, and she thinks she will have to take some butter and sugar while she's at it, as she can find vegetables, fruits, and meat in the forest, but there's no way to find sugar, butter, flour, and milk. She hears footsteps then and realizes someone is coming. She has her back to them while she's pretending to wash dishes and convinces herself to stay calm. She thinks, are they the monks that she has seen before, or are they in charge of cleaning? They converse with each other. One of them asks who is the guest today that got the abbots so worked up. And it seems like our massive donation was made, and he is ecstatic. The other one asks him, is he aware there's a girl abandoned in that hut, and refers to her as Lady Eloise. The other one says, what does he mean by lady? She's just a woman waiting for death in a ruler monastery. They then disclose information that shocks her to the core, revealing that it appears her father was killed. Upon hearing this, her face transforms into a ghostly visage, paling with profound shock. They wonder if now she's the countess and guess about the guest who came today. They think it's someone sent by the late count's wife. Eloise thinks it's the count's wife, Camilla. The monks reveal that according to the law, the inheritance process must be followed within a week of the 10th. If the inheritance isn't settled within that time, things could get complicated. The black-haired man wonders if they want to keep the lady here for a week and believes it's foolish. If that's the case, they should just leave her alone as they have been doing. Why send someone now? But the brown-haired one guesses, considering they went through the trouble by sending someone and giving a large sum to the about, they probably want to get rid of her hair without any hassle. Elo's eyes widen in fear, and she goes completely still. As she is on her way back in the forest, she recalls the man's world from earlier that they want to get rid of her. When she was abandoned here, she spent all day crying in shock at first. She didn't know how to do anything, as at her house, the adults always did it for her. Then, as time passed and she got older, she slowly accepted the situation that she is abandoned and no one is on her side. When she was not satisfied with the food sent by the monastery, she went in search of it by herself with the help of the books left behind by the hunter. She learned the things necessary for survival by reading books and diaries that the hunter abandoned, and that's how she discovered the ground. A ground for farming. She was determined to turn this place into a field and plant beans, potatoes, as she was sick of black bread. Now she's packing everything as she can't die here after surviving like that. Meals are served every 2 days, and today they already brought it, so tomorrow no one will come until that man comes, so she must go right now. She touches the necklace she is wearing and thinks this is the only thing that she must take with her. At first she thought about running away from here, but she did not think her situation would get better, and maybe she could go back to the capital one day. One memory resurfaces in her mind where she was with her mother, who embraced her with love and affection. She also made her promise that one day when she could inherit this beautiful garden could she protect this place. Aloes was worried if she could do that, but her mother assured her of course she is her daughter. Her mother took off her necklace and gave it to her and made her promise to always cherish this necklace. She told her when she's having a hard time, she should wear this necklace and pray while looking at the garden. Then she will get a lot of help. She holds her mother's necklace tightly and says, "Mother, if anyone comes to kill her tomorrow, they will know she's gone. Even if she has a day to spare, she will be caught soon if they send someone from the abbey." She smirks and thinks that's it, she can run away. On her way, she sees her field and the vegetables growing. She thinks it will be harvest season soon, but she won't be able to eat it. She also wonders if she will be able to grow and cook crops in the future. When she arrives at the cliff, she thinks no matter how many times she comes, it's a dizzying height, so nobody had thought that she would run away. It was hard to believe when she first saw the hunter's diary about there's a way down the cliff here. When she first went down, she was so scared that she cried. On weekends, the abbey did not even give her a trashy meal, so she climbed down the cliff and went to the village. She started selling books that she had read and memorized over and over again. Gradually, she became good at bargaining to get the right price. She bought a lot of things with the money she received, from crops to be planted in the field and plain clothes. She thinks they thought she would give up here. She finally climbs down the cliff with the help of rope. Her hands are hurting, but she convinces herself to get it together. From now it's a real deal. The assassin hired to kill her comes at night with a sword, he thinks, if she is asleep already, and that will be better as he can finish her off easily. But when he opens the door and steps in, there's a trap set by her for him, and he falls to the ground and lets out a terrifying scream. Aloes arrives at the capital riding a horse. She smiles when she realizes she is finally back to the capital where Mother used to live. She observes there's a lot more people here now, probably because of the war. 5 years ago, the Beastman race came over the Eternal Mountains in the north and invaded the Empire. The Empire, which barely knew of their existence, was completely unprepared to deal with this large-scale invasion and lost almost all of the northern territories, resulting in swamps of refugees coming to the capital with nowhere else to go. The Empire swiftly assembled their military, and people from various families joined the Imperial Army, and the most famous among these people were the mercenary King Harkin. He is known to cover his face all the time, so few people know about his identity, but he was known as the mercenary king for over 30 years, so her only guess is that he would be over 50 years of age, and a year ago, the Emperor had granted peerage and various awards to Harkin and many others for their service to the Empire. Aloes further reveals the war may be over, but its after effects still linger in the north. The recovery efforts just got started this year, too, so all these people are still unable to return home. She wonders what she should do, as she is sure the mansion is full of people that work for Camilla. According to the Empire's law, those who are not married are not acknowledged as legal adults. Furthermore, if a parent died, then the child who is a legal adult must declare that he or she intends to inherit the title. If that doesn't happen, then the peerage will be handed over to the surviving spouse, and it has been exactly 1 week since her father passed away, so she needs to get married right now. He realizes marrying a commoner would make things too complicated, so that's no good. There are 3 conditions. 1, he should be a noble. 2, he should be single, and 3, he must report their marriage in 3 hours to the proper office. She realizes that the office closes at 6 o'clock, so the only option left is this: the Mercenary Guild. They say that anything can be requested if there's a payment, and she has brought all her money with her. Anyone who's too greedy might be problematic, so she needs to ask for someone who has a good reputation, not that being greedy will get them anything else. She overhears some people who talk about that 10,000 gold was given to find someone, and they have never heard of so much money just to find someone, and it sounds like a walk in the park. But the man says something seems a little bit strange. It's a 22-year-old girl, blonde with green eyes, who was recently at the abbey. Aloes realizes they are talking about her. She quickly covers her face with the cloak as they step out and wonder, how do they expect them to find anyone with just that information? But they are determined to find her before anyone else finds her. Aloes knows it's Camilla. He realizes it will be 6 o'clock soon, and she does not have much time left. She clenches her fist and prays to God to please help her find it in his heart to send her a husband. And if possible, send her someone right now. That's when someone falls to the ground right in front of her. She is shocked and thinks if he fell from the heavens. That's when she notices someone is running after him and demands for him to pay back the money. He further says that he heard that he's been going around bragging to the ladies that he became a baron and he was lucky enough to kill some beastmen during the war. He says now why don't they see if they can squeeze some money out of him? She wonders if they are bouncers from a gambling den and guesses this poor guy got a bit unlucky. She should better get away from him before she gets pulled into any trouble. Silently standing to leave, she accidentally knocks over a dustbin and catches their attention. The man asks who she is. She replies she's just a nobody who is passing by and please, they should not mind her. They tell her to just get lost. She sighs in relief and tells them yes sir, she will. But just as she takes a step further, the man in cloak grabs her and she asks, "What is it? What's wrong with him?" And he says, "Honey, don't go." Her expressions are of pure confusion and disbelief. She tells him she thinks he's mistaken her for someone else. But he stands up abruptly and declares he did all this for her. She asks him now when was that, and she doesn't know anyone like him. The other man intervenes and says that she's a young woman, isn't she? And he could have sworn that earlier he heard a voice of a woman. He asks if she's really his wife. She tries to deny that she is not. He says if she wants her husband to be productive in bed, shouldn't she give them 50 gold coins to cover the money he borrowed, including the interest? She's furious and says, productive or not, she has no business being in bed with this man. She smiles again and tells him she is not his wife. He whispers in her ear, "Honey, it's 50 gold coins, hurry up and give it to them," and is she going to leave him like that? She tries to put distance between them and clearly tells him that she does not know him. He grabs her hand and notices she doesn't even flinch and thinks what kind of power she has. He whispers in her ear, asking if by any chance does she have 50 gold coins, and if she does, can she lend it to him for a moment? Promises to repay her. She is totally confused and wonders what's up with this guy. When she notices she is affected by his voice, she wonders if he's using some kind of magic. How can he steal someone's soul just with his voice? The man gets annoyed that what they're whispering about and comes nearer to grab a Lowe's. However, the guy comes in front of her to shield her with her money in his hand. He tells him here, take the money and hands over her money. She is shocked and doesn't know when he got her money. The men count, sit and knows it's exactly 50 gold coins. But when he notices the guy's beauty, he says, but if he doesn't have money, would he consider working at their place? The customer would love him. With that face, he could make a fortune. The guy says sorry, but that's not going to work. He is the type to only obey one person and brings Eloz's hand and presses a kiss on her knuckles and refers to her as honey. She is completely bewildered at this point. He then announces that they have given them the money, so let's leave it at that, and grabs her hand and takes her along with him. When they come to the corner, she's panting and he asks if she's okay and apologizes for dragging her into this all of a sudden and explains it's just how the situation unfolded. He further adds he will return the 50 gold coins right away. It will take a bit of a walk, but if they go to his place in the Western District, she notices she doesn't have much time and turns to him suddenly and asks if he's really a noble. He's confused, but answers anyway that he is a noble and an heir apparent at least. She grabs him by his cloak and says the 50 gold coins that he owes her doesn't he plan to repay her with his body. On the other hand, Camilla is sitting on her sofa and sighs. The maid says if she lies down like that, her dress will wrinkle. She replies, so what? She won't wear it again after the funeral. She then orders the maid to go get her some alcohol, and they're expecting a guest soon and show them to the room right away. A few days ago, Merchant Association President came to greet her and said she must be grieving deeply, but it's really rare to find such a vast mansion in the capital. It's the perfect land for the massive arcade they're planning, so once the funeral is over, she should sell it to them. They will buy the entire estate, including Espenzia's top floor. They also promised to pay her handsomely for it, so she agreed to sign the contract right after the funeral. She says even though it was once the Empire top floor, it's now at the level of a local business to think she would buy it with all its troubles that she can't even manage. It's a perfect deal. She thinks it's good that she sent that girl away to the monastery when she was young. She recalls a memory where the Eloz was being stubborn and saying that it's her mom's mansion and she wants to inherit it. Camilla thinks she has to reveal her intentions for the inheritance today, but it seems like she has given up since she hasn't shown herself yet. She is sure people from the Baselan family will never guess her true intentions, and she will sell everything and move to the south to live luxuriously. But then she wonders, why is the association president taking so long? Upon hearing some noises, she deduces that it seems the merchants have arrived. She steps out to greet them personally. The carriage stops, however, the person who steps out is no one other than Aloes. The maids run to her to inform her that today they cannot accept any customer, but she tells them she is not a customer. She takes off her cloak and declares she came to get back what's hers. The old maid gets shocked as she remembers that eye color and hair color. She knows it's Lady Aloes. She says she is glad someone remembers her, and Camilla, arrogant as ever, underestimates her and says she grew up in an abbey and became ignorant of the law. She has to be married if she wants to inherit the assets. She points out she is not married, so she doesn't have any right. But to her shock, Aloes takes out her marriage certificate and says, is she talking about this? She then says she should introduce her husband Lakshan to her. Camilla realizes she must have heard about the inheritance law somewhere, but even so with some northern barbarian. She states she cannot believe her, who has been in this abbey all this time, is married, and asks when on earth did she meet that man. She further asks what if he's a suspicious man? Aloes replies it's not something she should worry about and states Lakshan as her husband is not lacking. Camilla observes that his arms and legs look fine, so he must have a problem with his face, and she will have to break that confident spirit first. She then says, then why is he covering his face like that, like he's hiding something that cannot be shown? Aloes tries to reply, but Camilla cuts her off, demanding that if he's confident, he should show his face. Lakshan jokes that everyone is so worried about his wife he takes off his cloak and winks, asking if she is relieved now. Aloes notices he's really handsome. Lakshan acts super lovey-dovey with her and asks her, isn't this enough time to say hello, as he cannot wait to be alone with her. She wonders what happened to him. He did not act like this at the government office. She recalls when they were at the government's office, she asked for his name when signing the paper, but she wasn't too sure and asked him if he's okay with this. He says, didn't she say it was an emergency? She replied, but getting married for money she thinks isn't a good idea. He laughed and joked that he did not think that's what the person who told him to pay back with his body would say. He assured her it's okay, and she said they would get this worse after the trouble is over. He encouraged her to do it. She thought to herself she was going to be careful when choosing her husband. She never thought she would pick it up on the street. He then asked her if she was going straight to the mansion now. She replied no, there's someone she needed to meet before that. Back to the present, she makes it clear to Camilla that whatever she thinks, this is a document approved by the government, which means she is now the Count of Baseland and the owner of this place. Camilla is mad that she referred to herself as the owner of this place. That's when the carriage of the mercenaries arrives. Camilla is more than eager to greet them, while Aloes is confused and asks Lakshan if he knows them. He tells them a little, but they don't know him. He warns her they are mercenaries, so they are a little intimidating. The president steps out of the carriage and greets Camilla, and is happy that she has personally come to receive them. She smiles and says of course she's been waiting for so long, but there is a bit of a problem. He asks her what does she mean by a problem. She leans in closer and whispers in his ear. An uninvited person suddenly appeared. Aloes asks them, who are they? One of the men replies, they are here to meet the Countess Camilla today, and it's the chairman of the Merchants Association. She introduces herself as Aloes Espentia Baseland and tells him from today she is the Countess of Baseland. Camilla tells the president that if Aloes had come a little late their contract would have ended safely. The president smiles, but his intentions don't look good at all when he says that if the new count came a little later. His men say, what are they saying? The new countess came later, after the contract was already signed. They further say that maybe she won't come forever. Aloes is truly furious, her emotions boiling with intense anger. Lakshan asks her should he get rid of those people for her. She asks him how is he going to knock all those people down alone. He tells her there's nothing he cannot do. She smiles and says she knows it's only empty words, but thanks and thinks to herself, she almost believed him and asked him to do it for her. He again says is she not going to ask him to help her? She tells him yeah, because this is her problem. Camilla shouts hey what are they doing and asks them to hurry up and seize those bastards. The men come and capture both of them. Aloes screams to let go of him. He has nothing to do with this. Lakshan says what does she mean he got nothing to do with her, and reminds her he is her husband, and she feels good to know that he is worried about her. But when he says it like that, she also feels a bit sad. That's when Camilla intervenes and tells him to stop joking around. She asks her if she thinks that a long-lost child will be acknowledged as a countess when she comes back. She reminds her she has been in the abbey for 14 years, but it seems like she couldn't learn how to be obedient and her gaze looks exactly the same as when she was a child. Elose asks what kind of contact she has with the merchants. She replies it's nothing much because the countess who lost her husband and fell into grief was in so much pain when she saw the mansion full of memories and is trying to be calm. She further adds that her father wanted to hold on to the pride of a count and he was really holding out and not selling this old mansion until the very end, even though they could have lived in a beggar mansion if they sold this one and went to the southern region. But Camilla believes now is the end of such a foolish act. Her husband died and she came too late when she opens her eyes again. Perhaps she will meet her parents. Elose smirks and says that does she think she came without taking those things into consideration. She says she also knows her situation, the fact that there's no one who is going to stand by her side. Camilla wonders why she is being so confident. That's when a carriage arrives from the imperial palace. Camilla is shocked because she knows from the uniform that it's from the imperial palace. She orders them to let go of her because she knows it will be a problem if Elose discloses what happened now. Lakshan comes after his wife and asks if she's okay. She tells him yeah. Marcus Lakshan, imperial family's minister of finance, steps out of the carriage and notices everyone is out here. Camilla and the president are shocked about why Minister Lakshan is here. Minister Lakshan's eyes land on Lakshan. He hesitates a bit and wonders why is that person here. He notices there are a lot more people than he expected and asks if he has to wait. Elose assures him that all of them are uninvited guests, so she's about to send them away soon and thanks him for coming here. Lakshan reminds her that he should be the one thanking her instead because she said that she's going to donate all her territories and wealth, including this mansion, to the country. Camille and the men are shocked. Camilla is flabbergasted and says what? What does she mean? Lakshan thinks no matter how the prior count squandered his wealth, he still has so many territories in the region and lots of jewels as well as works of the art in this mansion. However, she's going to donate everything, even this mansion, to the country. Elose thinks she was hesitating throughout her way to the capital as she was wondering she needed a method to safely protect the Count's mansion from Camilla. That's when this idea lit up in her mind to give all of it to the person that Camilla won't dare to go against. Lakshan tells her a donation of such a huge scale is the first in history and he has caused her trouble for coming at this time. She assures him not at all. She is only feeling grateful because he is preparing it for her right away, although it was a sudden request. She tells him she will entrust everything to him and requests him to take care of the terms that she asked him beforehand. He says of course he will definitely take care of it. She will donate everything. However, the term is to maintain this mansion and the garden as they are. With this, she kept her promise to her mother. After Elose deals with everything, she comes out to meet Lakshan and apologizes and asks if he's been waiting for long. He says it's all right, she looks busy, and asks if she can come out like this. She says no matter how busy she is, she still has to look after her savior. She gives him the money and says it is his payment for helping her today, and these are some stuff that she found after searching through Camilla's room. She tells him that since Minister Lakshan decided to turn a blind eye to it and give her these items, he can sell these too. Of course, he doesn't have to return the 50 gold now. He tells her she's very generous, but she disagrees. If he were not there today, all of this wouldn't have happened. She says if she thinks of it, this is rather a very small payment, and she also expresses her gratitude. He asks for. She recalls the memory where he had offered to get rid of those bastards for her. She explains that when he said that he would help her back then, and to be honest, Camilla was scary indeed. But since he said that he would knock all of them down by himself, she unconsciously smiled. She brightly smiles at him and thanks him. At this moment he looks totally captivated by her, but then he asks her what is she going to do now as she lost everything. She says everyone thinks she lost everything, but she thinks she has protected them. She states that this garden and mansion that existed in this empire will be maintained forever. Is there any other method to protect the mansion that's better than this one? He is curious to know that doesn't she feel that it's such a shame to lose everything and it was all hers. She replies she would be lying if she said she was not tempted by them. But if she were to try owning all of them, she wouldn't be safe like this, would she? And it's not like she lost everything. She took care of herself in her own way. He questions her what is she going to do now. She replies for now, she's thinking of leaving the capital. That's when a maid comes and requests her to come back inside. She tells him she has to go and asks him to be careful on his way back. She also reminds him to not forget to meet her in front of the government office at 3 o'clock p.m. on Monday as they have to get divorced. When he returns back to the place he is currently staying at, some men come and ask if he has returned now. He seems annoyed and says he did not know that they're still waiting for him, and asks if he finished the business in the gambling house well. The man refers to him as His Highness and expresses his gratitude to him for his help, and informs him they are able to safely gather all the evidence. The man also looks very intimidated by His Highness. He tells him to forget it, and asks if he reported the fact that he did not come back to his brother. The man hesitates, and Lakshan realizes that he did. The man explains that His Majesty had given him a strict command to report everything to him. Lakshan says he's safe, and he wrapped up everything his brother told him to do. He further adds he doesn't have to guard the surroundings, so it was an unnecessary concern. He will report everything to his brother tomorrow, so he needs to go. The man hesitates, but Lakshan narrows his eyes and lets him know this is not a request. The men cower in front of him and run for their lives. Later, he's laying on his bed and thinks it was a long day. It's obvious since he even had to marry someone. He opens the contract and sees a marriage acknowledged only by a piece of paper. Really funny. He then thinks about Aloes, and he did not know that things would turn out this way. He recalls what had happened earlier. He needed to buy time for his men to look around upstairs, so he needed to draw the guards' attention. He flirted with the women there, asked for their money, and caught the attention of the guards. He jumped out of the window so they would follow him. He did not want to be suspected until the end. He thinks it was a really weird meeting, and why did it happen to be in that place? He also thinks of her shiny blonde hair and how he thought they would be really soft if he touched them. Suddenly, he feels crazy about thinking like that. He decides to go back to his hometown too. His Majesty keeps trying to keep him in the capital. He also thinks how His Majesty will get upset if he finds out that he got married today, but it was fake. If it were real, Lowe's would be lying here with him now because it is their first night now. He suddenly jumps out of the bed when he realizes what is he even thinking. Aloes is outside on the balcony. She thinks she doesn't even realize that she's married, but she can't believe she's getting divorced right away, and she is all alone again. Then she thinks again. She was alone from the beginning ever since she was abandoned in the cabin. She recalls her mother's words that when she is having a hard time, she should wear this necklace and pray while looking at the garden. Then she will get a lot of help. Says she's not having a hard time, but what should she do from now on? That's when the pendant shines and she is surprised. Next day, Lakshan is sitting at the imperial palace and is annoyed because His Majesty is taking a long time. He decides to walk in the garden, but then decides against it as he doesn't need to stand out. He then looks at the portrait of his mother, who was the emperor, and wonders if he looks like her. He recalled the childhood memories where he used to ask his father how his mother looked. His father realized that his son had never seen her. He had told him that she was a wonderful person and was always shining. He recalls father's face when he would draw his mother's sketches and would smile, and the young him would join his father and laugh. One day his father had brought white lilies, and he asked why did he buy flowers like this. His father was crying and told him that the emperor passed away and told him he wanted to be alone for a while. On the day of her death, his father had told Lakshan that her mother was the former emperor Ukresha. He explained that after Her Majesty dealt with the traitor, she met him and gave birth to him, and then he and his son lived a secluded life. He also gave him a necklace that she had told him to bring when he needed help. He warned his son to never go there, but he should keep it. Soon after the war broke out, Harkin was fatally wounded while evacuating residents from the battlefield. Harkin was the male protagonist's father who announced upon his death that from now on Lakshan is the mercenary King Harkin. He took command of the mercenaries, pretending to be his father, and evacuated the villagers. Harkin's death remained only in the hearts of him and his colleagues. At that time, he thought it would be good to disappear quietly after the war. Back in the present, His Majesty finally arrives and is not okay with the formalities with his brother. He met with his brother during the final showdown between the Imperial Army and the Suing people with all their might. The Emperor was also present there. At first the Imperial Army seemed dominant, but soon the Emperor's army was isolated as the enemy dug into the flank. The Emperor seemed to be completely surrounded by the Suing people. Lakshan realized that if he did not intervene to protect his brother, he might die. That's when he went and fought and protected His Majesty, who recognized his brother Lakshan at first sight. He thinks even though the bandage was torn, it was still amazing that he noticed it right away. His Majesty notices that Lakshan is thinking about something and asks him about it. He replies that he is thinking about the first time that he met His Majesty on the battlefield, and he knew who he was right away. And it's fascinating to think about it again, because he noticed it even before he saw the necklace. His Majesty replies that's because the late emperor often told him about his brother. She explained to his son that as soon as Lakshan was born, she returned to the palace and she didn't even know what he looked like. But she thought he looked a lot like his father when he was born. His Majesty believes that he would still recognize him right away, even if he hadn't heard about him before. He could say that the royal family has a good sense, and there's an animal sense in that part. His Majesty says in that case his brother also recognized him right away, but he still addresses him as His Majesty. Lakshan thinks to himself he never intended to call him his brother. He thinks to himself that a younger brother who suddenly appears to the emperor who doesn't have descendants. It's like a seed of trouble. He thinks that he would be a prospective traitor to some few truth-knowing subjects, and he doesn't have to be so vigilant like that. His Majesty says that he heard that he helped a lot on the gambling house problem, and thanks to him things are going to be easy now. But there's another problem, that is his marriage. Lakshan smiles and thinks he already did it. He tells His Majesty that he doesn't have to be worried about his marriage issue. His Majesty says why shouldn't he be worried? He's already 26 years old. That means he's already 6 years older than the average age to get married in the empire. Lakshan thinks to himself that he started again. His Majesty declares that he has decided to set up a meeting for him with all the women of marriageable age, since he will be busy meeting all of them. He should prepare his heart. Upon hearing this, Lakshan's face pales and goes into shock. The emperor happily tells him that he will set up a meeting for him starting tomorrow, so he's going to stay in the royal palace for now. He says brother. The emperor's taken aback by his calling him as his brother for the first time. Lakshan says to be honest, he has a person who he thinks of as his partner. The emperor doesn't believe it because he hasn't talked about it even once. He explains that it's because he would tell him to bring that person right away if he talked about it, and how bothersome it would be for her if she had to meet His Majesty all of a sudden. Lakshan states that once the Northerners choose their partners, they won't look at other people until they die. So he hopes that his brother will understand that he has no choice but to be more careful about it, and thinks wow, the lights were smooth. His Majesty says he gets it. Lakshan sighs in relief, but then he asks, what's her name? As the emperor believes he can at least tell him her name. He cannot just keep calling her his partner. Lakshan ends up telling his brother that her name is Eloise. The emperor asks what kind of person is Eloise. He replies that she is an energetic and wonderful person. He then asks for her hair color. He replies shiny blonde, and then he asks for her eye color and all the other details. He only stops once he is satisfied, however. Then he says it will obviously be burdensome for her to be summoned to the royal palace, so he will be the one who goes out to meet her. Lakshan is so confused that he thinks he doesn't have any other choice other than to run away. On the other hand, Eloise has already arrived at the government office, and when she sees she is alone she wonders if she has arrived early. However, since it's somewhat uncomfortable to look at the mansion now that it's no longer hers, she also finished all the businesses that were required for the donation. She realizes it would have been nice to bring along an escort with her, but she cannot be caught having a divorce. Also, she cannot trust the people in the mansion. She recalls how all the maids were being hesitant in front of her and thinks in the mansion she couldn't drink a glass of water comfortably. She feels, to be honest, it would be better to postpone the divorce until everything becomes more peaceful. But there's no way Lakshan would do it, so it's better to hurry and get divorced. She startles as pain shoots through her neck, realizing someone has pierced her with a needle. In confusion she wonders about it, but soon recognizes the ominous onset of unconsciousness as it overwhelms her. Someone inquires if she's feeling all right. It seems that she is not feeling all right, so she should just lean on to her. Eloise recognizes this voice is of Camilla. Camilla tells her to get her senses together as they have a lot of conversations to have. The person she sent lost one of his legs and 2 fingers. Eloise realizes she cannot speak and wonders if she's going to die like this. She thinks about Lakshan and realizes that if she died immediately after registering their marriage, the suspicion will fall on him. Camilla asks her man why she is so weak and they should hurry up and also bring her along with them. She orders them to hurry up and help her lift her up. They bring her in the alley and Camille asks was the drug too strong? Why isn't she able to wake up? She says that she might regain consciousness if she starts cutting her hands and legs off right. She decides to do it, but a warning to let go of her stops her before she can act on her evil intentions. When she looks up, it's Lakshan, who looks clearly pissed off and mad. He asks them what are they doing to his wife. Camilla says it was his turn next anyway, but he came here on his own. Moreover, is he going to imitate a mercenary with nothing on him? She instructs her men to catch him. One of the big men runs after him with an axe in his hand. However, Lakshan delivers a powerful punch in his face and he falls to the ground. Camilla and his men are left standing with their faces drained of color. He says, imitating a mercenary, that's his best skill. Later at night, Elose slowly regains consciousness. As her senses return, she startles, leaping in bed, and screams Camilla's name. When she notices this unfamiliar place, she wonders, where is it? Lakshan comes in with a tray in his hands and notices she is awake. She asks him why is he here and then what is this place. He tells her that she should eat some food first. Because the antidote is so strong, the doctor said that her stomach cannot be empty, and he said that she will feel dizzy until the poison is completely neutralized. She realizes, come to think of it, she feels a bit dizzy too. She then asks him what happened to Camilla. And what about those mercenaries? He tells her this is the inn where he stays. He lies to her that when he arrived at their meeting place, he saw her being dragged to the alley. The truth is, he killed all of them and did not even spare Camilla. He then ordered his men to come out and take care of all the mess and asked for the nearest hospital from there. However, he tells her a different story which won't make her run for the hills. He says, looking at her being dragged to the alley, he reported it to the security guards. The security guards came and saved her, and Camilla with her mercenaries were taken in custody for suspicion of objection. She asks him that those people were meekly taken in custody. He says it seemed like there was some kind of problem among them. Within that short time, they had a fight and fainted and everything seemed chaotic. He assures her that woman Camilla also got poisoned by her hired mercenary and fainted. She thanks him for his help, but he says it's his duty to his wife. He then ushers her to eat the food as it's getting cold. She is reluctant at first, but as she takes a bite, she finds it very delicious and ends up eating it all. He asks her what is she going to do from now on. He tells her that Camilla is in prison, but it seems like her relatives are rioting. According to the Empire laws, people can reclaim what has been donated to the Empire within 1 year. She believes she should go far away from the capital for now. He asks her if she has the money for her travel. She assures him she has that much. She explains at least the people from the Ministry of Finance hid some assets before the mansion was checked. Well, those people turned a blind eye to some extent and gave them to her. Also beside that, when her pendant shined that night, she realized that there was a hole in that place. It was a safe. Inside was a password for another safe where emergency funds were kept, and the emergency fund is kept in 5 places. She recalls how her mother told her that she should find and use them in case of an emergency. Her mother even apologized that the emergency fund was small, and she now freaked out that how 100,000 gold was a small fund. She thinks to herself that with 100,000 golds, she can buy a good house in a big city, and the money will still remain. Even if she lives leisurely her whole life, she thinks, let's hold on for 1 year. He asks her again where she is going. She replies honestly that she is not sure. She says she wants to go as far as she can since she doesn't have any plans in mind. He asks her how about going to his hometown. She is startled for a moment. He thinks, what did he end up saying? Then he explains that he said it because she said she wants to go far away. He further adds it's a good and quiet place and thinks if she will refuse. But to his surprise, she looks excited and eager to know more about his hometown. He tells her his hometown is a small village in the north. There are about 100 households in total. She replies she likes that as she thinks, since it's a small village, it will be a good place to hide from her relatives. He also tells her it has a fertile soil, so whatever she plants will grow well there, and when the wheat has ripened, the field's color turns gold and the village kids do fishing in the river. She notices he really likes his hometown, and it's the exact suitable place for her the more she listens to him. Because the northern area was incorporated into the empire just a couple of years ago, the aristocrats won't go there since it's an uncivilized land. But then a question arises in her mind. She asks him why is he being so kind to her? She says, setting aside their marriage of convenience, he could have left her in the hospital, but he's even looking after her, and he's even telling her about his hometown as a place to hide. She asks him does he give suggestions to all the women he meets. He is quick to deny the accusation. He tells her to be honest, he needs to ask something. He looks a little bit nervous, but then he asks her, would she be his partner? Elose realizes that's how the Northerners call their spouse. For them, marriage is a sacred relationship that's committed in front of God. Once they become partners, they can never separate, and even after their partners have died, they have to live alone their whole life. She realized when she was a child, she had read that because of that, there are many people who prefer to date only, and there are also people who have kids with their lovers without making them their partners. Lakshan quickly corrects himself that he was asking her to pretend to be his partner, not to be his real partner. He explains everything to her. She repeats his words that he doesn't really want to get married, but his imperialist half-brother forced him to get married, so he lied about having someone in mind to be his partner, and then he ended up mentioning her name as he pleased along with the description of her appearance, right? He looks ashamed and apologizes to her. He explains that his brother is somewhat persistent, so he's a person who will search up all the documents about her, and he couldn't really explain that it was a misunderstanding. She tells him, "All right, it means that they have to be in a married situation for a while, right?" He asks her if it is really okay. She tells him that he is her savior who saved her life, that much is nothing, and she has superior motives in her mind too. In that way, she won't gain suspicions from her relatives, who may think that it's a marriage of convenience. She's okay with this because they only have to maintain this marriage for a couple more years. After that, His Majesty gave them the marriage certificate and a letter. There's no way he will come to meet them, right? Lakshan is lost in all these thoughts when Aloes calls his name. She asks if he's really all right. As expected, it's too much for him, right? She will pay for the wagon, isn't that what he's worried about? He assures her he's really all right. He was just calculating the schedule of their trip. He thinks the poor mercenary image has been clearly stamped on his face because of their first encounter. He wonders if she will faint if she knows that all the surrounding areas in his hometown are his territory. He was tired of the role of mercenary king in the war, so it was the land that he received to live ordinary with his colleagues in his hometown. But due to its fertile granaries, this place has to pay a huge tax. The properties bestowed by His Majesty were already too much. They were given to him as a gift by the Majesty for saving his life. He believes there is no need to explain it, and it's also been a long time since someone has worried about her. When they reach, she feels dizzy. He asks her if she's all right and gives her the water. She tells him she felt like dying. He reminds her she was excitedly admiring the views in the beginning. She explains because she had always been highly tense in capital, so it was her first time admiring the views comfortably from a wagon. She says it's thanks to him that she could peacefully admire the view this time and expresses her gratitude to him. The man of the inn welcomes them. Aloes tells him that they are going to stay for one day, and he should provide them with dinner and breakfast as well. He asks if they want one room. She is going to deny, but Lakshan cuts in and says they want the same room. The man apologizes for his insensitivity and realizes there are a couple. Lakshan agrees and says they are a newly married couple. They don't want to be apart even for 1 hour. He then asks to take his leave since his wife is tired. The man says both of them are in their prime time, so they can order dinner until late at night. He smiles and pushes her and says, "Let's go, honey," and she's super confused about it. The room looks more like a honeymoon suite, and both of them are standing in front of it awkwardly. Elzo grabs Candelabrum with the intention of hitting Lakshan, with it accusing him of being a wolf like all men. He raises his hands trying to explain. Lakshan tells Aloes that beyond this hill is his hometown Elden. She asks him if by chance he means paradise in ancient words, right? She tells him that it's a nice name. She asks him to tell her more about his hometown. Lakshan smiles as he asks if she wants to hear it all over again, as she has been listening to all of it while coming all the way here. Elzo holds his hand as she expresses to him that she is feeling so excited that she is finally going to arrive at the place that she will be living in from now on. She also ponders deep down that she should not be paying too much attention to a place that she will be leaving in a year in the end. But deep down, there are so many things that she wishes to do. She wishes to pick a clean house and a garden, as well as wants to prepare lunch with fresh vegetables, fruits, and freshly baked breads, and for dinner, she wants to eat and talk with people at a village restaurant. She is aware that from now on she is able to do anything that she desires. She beams with excitement thinking about how in this wonderful town that Lakshan told her she will have so many new memories. She is suddenly confused as she stares ahead of her. It turns out that the village Lakshan was talking about is in a very poor condition, which is known as the rich and peaceful village of Elden. Lakshan expresses that it is looking better than he had expected, which leaves Aloes speechless. She asks him does he think this is actually better. He states that he thought there might be no trace or anything as the whole area unfortunately was swept away by war. Aloes, with a worrisome expression on her face, turns to him and asks him if he was aware of the condition of this village. He responds yes, he was well aware of it. He realizes that since Aloes was interested in his hometown, he ended up only talking about the good things and did not tell her the current situation of the village. He has never told anyone about his hometown because he is living as a Harkin and realizes that in the end he was being too excited. He has a sad expression on his face as he is aware that just like a fool he made a fuss about it, not knowing about much as he was too excited. He is aware that Aloes would have been drawing her own future, and also knows that she does not want to stay in a place like this even if she wants to rest for a while. He tells her that if she wishes to leave from here, then he is okay with searching for a new place where they could stay. She suddenly apologizes to him, which leaves him with a sense of confusion. She tells him that it is his hometown, and she is sure that he must be more upset after seeing all of this and encountering this state of his hometown. She is aware that she cannot complain to someone whose hometown was destroyed just because it did not turn out as she had imagined, just because her imagination was broken. She thinks that Lakshan must have been desperate. He smiles brightly as he tells her that it is nothing that she should be feeling sorry about. He tells her that it's the Sun people who set the fire, but still he tells her to forget it and they should go to their house. He informs that she should better get some rest now and asks her to give him her bag too, as he will carry it for her. Lakshan ponders that the other parts of the empire are lucky that only the north side got hit, and he did not care about the damage to the north. He did not expect to receive an apology. He shows her the home that they will be staying in from now on and states that it just needs a little fixing for it to get back to its original state. Suddenly a man yells at them and asks them why are they in someone else's neighborhood. The man is suddenly stunned, questioning who is this. Before he realizes who he is, before Lakshan rushes to him and punches him in the stomach, asking him to call him captain, otherwise he will kill him, as he calls the man Qian. Before stating that he is okay with being called Lakshan too, Qian looks at Eloise and asks Qian if she is someone that should not be finding out about his identity. Lakshan responds that she is an acquaintance's daughter and he only brought her because she had nowhere to go. Qian thinks about weird scenarios as he asks if that's really the case. Lakshan asks him what's up with those eyes. Qian states that it's because he has never brought in a girl before ever in his life. He questions if she is from the Empire, and as well as questioning Lakshan if that one is his preferences. Lakshan hits him as Eloise ponders that she is unable to listen properly from such a distance and thinks that he must be a close friend to him. Lakshan tells Qian to go to his colleagues since he will be living here as Lakshan now, so he should not call him captain from now on. He asks Qian if he understands. Qian is filled with worrisome expressions as he asks that he cannot hide it forever, can he? Lakshan mentions that she is going to leave in a year and wonders if maybe she could leave sooner than that. Lakshan tells Qian to stop talking nonsense and go away now as he smacks him. Qian wonders if she is really leaving after a year. He smirks as he ponders that he thinks otherwise. Eloise asks Lakshan if that is his friend. Lakshan responds that his name is Qian and it is his old friend. Eloise asks Qian if he could go and come back real quick. As he is not sure what Qian will end up telling the others, Eloise informs him that it is okay and he can go and come as he wishes to. Lakshan tells her that she can go inside first and take a look around the house. Lakshan runs there as he calls out to Qian. One of the men calls him captain, to which Qian tells him that he has already told him that he should not call him captain. Raman responds, who cares, as Qian is the one who is going to die anyway by him. The man standing behind him is Kugan. Duras calls Lakshan as captain and mentions that he is glad to see him back. Eden states that he had thought their captain was going to stay in the capital for the rest of his life. Lakshan tells them that he has made it clear that no one should be calling him captain and they should drop their honorifics. Raman asks him who followed him to this town, a shadow or a spy. Lakshan responds that it is just a guest who is going to be staying here for a little while. Qian whispers into their ears that guest is a woman. This suddenly runs to see the guest as Lakshan follows them behind, calling them punks and asking them to stop. As they reach the front of the house, they notice smoke as they wonder what is going on. Inside, Eloise is having trouble breathing as the house is caught on fire. They wonder if it is fire that is causing the smoke. Lakshan bursts open the door, calling out to Eloise and questioning if she is okay. Eloise rushes to him and seems worried about the door as he has broken the door. Lakshan realizes it's not serious as he expresses that he thought something was going on because there was smoke. He notices this smell as it turns out that a few hours ago, when Eloise stepped into the house, she noticed that the house was very dirty. She looked around as her eyes set on something. She noticed that there was even a carpet in this room. She realized that this carpet was a very expensive carpet as it was a color that could only be dyed in the southern island region. They use secret dyes that no one knows. She thinks that the owners must have made a big decision to buy it, but sees that it is left unattended. She is aware that she will have to trim it later. She noticed that this place is amazing as it is. She was stunned as she even found an oven and an expensive pot as well. She was aware that there were more expensive items than she had thought. She knows that she has to wash them up before she uses them. She finds it a good thing as she was feeling bored anyway. She heard that these kind of houses has doors that lead to the backyard. She finds it as she knows as she had expected. She knew there would be a well as well. She takes out a bucket of water as she ponders that there is no moss and the water is very clear. She is aware she can use the water right away. She wonders who took care of the water for it to be so clean. She realizes that this is way more fun than she had thought. She thinks that she should look for something else. She thinks that there must be a big bucket somewhere here. As she opens a door, she finds all kinds of foods, realizing it is the food storage. She is aware that the food quality is not that good with these ingredients. She can cook it and knows she has been waiting to try it since she was in the abbey. She decides to cook as she takes out some ingredients. She has not cooked it yet because she was afraid she will get caught as she made a fire in the abbey. She sees that it has been neglected for quite a time, so it is not wiping well. She is aware that at times like this the remedy of mixing vinegar and salt in 1-to-1 ratio is perfect. She has seen the abbey kitchen do it like this as well. She has read books to survive. She did not know what she learned secretly in the abbey kitchen would be so helpful. She cooks it as she takes a spoon of it and ponders that she feels free now. She is aware that after she left Abbey she ran away crazily and even got married to receive her inheritance and then ran away again. She is aware that she is free now. Lakshan calls out to Eloise as she looks at them. He is surprised as well as his friends. Lakshan questions that during that short time she made a meat stew. She responds yes, she did, and asks if he would like to eat it with his friends. He ponders friends before he gives them a dead glare which tells them that if any one of them dared to call him captain he will kill them. They are all scared by his look. After the food is served, Eloise asks Lakshan if he liked the food and if it is worth eating. Lakshan is filled with astonishment as he responds that he has never had a meat stew like this before. He asks if she only does cooking in the abbey. The others also states that it is the best one they have eaten so far, as well as wishing to eat this stew forever. Eloise finds it a relief as she mentions that if she knew this would happen she would have boiled it more. One states that it is worth filling the warehouse and asks, isn't that right? Lakshan responds that it is right. Chian mentions that he has heard that Eloise is staying in this town for a while, and if she does not mind he questions if she can cook for them. Lakshan asks him what is he even talking about. He continues that how will Eloise make meals every time for all of them, and also mentioning that they even eat too much. Eloise responds that she actually wishes to do it. She tells him that she wishes to cook for them. Chian mentions that the food was awesome. Roman tells Chian to put the tableware down calmly. Lakshan also tells her that it's very delicious, and they thanks her for giving them such a delicious meal. One of them mentions that until now they would just roll the ingredients because they cannot cook, and she is going to take care of cooking from now on. Lakshan does not seem very happy with it. After a while, Lakshan is washing the dishes as Eloise ponders that Lakshar is good at washing dishes, but the bowl is oily, and even sees that he is good at cutting fruits as well. But she seems nervous as she asks if by any chance he is mad at her. He suddenly turns around in shock as he tells her that is impossible. She tells him that he has been quiet since others left and asks if it is because she said that she will cook as she pleases. She seems quiet down as Lakshar ponders that why would he be mad at someone who cooks a delicious meal. He tells her that he is being like this because he is feeling sorry. He mentions that he just told her some nice things and brought her here, and this town is a mess, and it's like he brought her here to cook as he calls his friends some wild pigs. He imagines Xian as a pig asking Eloise for some croissant. As well as others, he is frustrated because of them for saying such things. He asks isn't her memory too distorted? He mentions that he is really ashamed of himself as she is his guest. She calls out to him as she mentions that she does not wish to be a guest. She states that even if she is here for just a year, she does not want to live awkwardly as a stranger. She ponders that it feels like she is being pushed out of line. She felt so sick of being alone when she could not talk to anyone she started stuttering. So she talked desperately to a bird, to a fruit, and to a wild rabbit. She wanted to talk to people, so she kept going down to the village even though it was dangerous. But in the end she was always alone when she got back. However, she mentions that this mealtime was really different for her, as she could make a big portion without the need to save ingredients, and they savored it all. They asked about her and told her their story, to the point where she wanted it to last forever. She also states that she wants to cook many things, but she cannot eat everything by herself. Before Lakshan tells her that he will eat it, he mentions that she should make a lot, and he will eat it all, so she does not have to give it to the other guys. He blushes as she thanks him for his words. He is filled with embarrassed as he ponders what did he just ended up saying. She smiles as he ponders that she did not need to get his permission. Lakshan states that while they are here, he is her guardian, but he did not bring her here to order her, he just wanted her to be comfortable. He states that she is free to do all she wants, but she should not let the price of her labor slide and make sure she gets it. She responds that it is something that she is very good at. He mentions then he will wash the rest of dishes and make the bed upstairs. She mentions that she will go up after looking at the ingredients. She tells him that she is looking forward to tomorrow's food. She is speechless as well as taken aback as she questions, "What is this?" She sees that everything on the inside is rotten, wondering when did they bring this? She questions to herself, why are there more potatoes and it is even sprouted? She looks at all the butter and questions how much butter did they even buy. Noticing that it's all gone bad, she suddenly sees an insect causing her to fall down. She realizes that it is worse than the abbey. She finds it a mess. She ponders that she is sure everyone is struggling as mercenaries, as she cannot believe they are wasting their money on something that they cannot even eat. She rushes out for Lakshan as she asks what is with the condition of the food storage. She tells him that most of the things they bought are rotten and useless. Lakshan is surprised as he asks if that is really the case. He mentions that Kian said he was going to deal with the food vendor. He mentions he will ask Kian tomorrow and tells her that most importantly he has put a new sheet on it so she should sleep here tonight. He mentions that he will leave now. She questions where is he going to leave if he is not sleeping here. He tells her that there is only one bed so he will sleep at Kian's. He states that if anything happens she should blow this whistle as he gives it to her. He mentions that it is a flute that can be heard even beyond the mountain, and he will come tomorrow morning so she should sleep tight. She responds all right, and she will see him tomorrow. She takes a better look at it as she ponders that if she puts it on like this, she won't lose it right. She decides to blow it when she is with Lakshan. She thinks that it would be a big trouble if he ran here because she blew it as a joke. She decides to organize luggage as she thinks that anyway she has to go to another house tomorrow. She decides to take a bath. She goes to the washroom as she is surprised to see that Lakshan got her some warm water. She thinks that no wonder he kept falling water even after washing the dishes. She is aware that she ended up being indebted to him again. She even finds it kind of him to go to another house to sleep. She knows that it is hard for an adult man and woman to sleep in the same place, but she thought it would be okay if it was Lakshan. She goes to take the path. Meanwhile, at the same time at Kian's house, Kian is throwing a fuss asking Lakshan to give his bed back to him. Lakshan tells him to shut up and just sleep. Kian asks him why did he come to his house where there is only one bed. The morning begins as Aloza wakes up. She stretches before she lays down again as she mentions that she thinks it is colder because it is in the north. She looks for the map as she questions if Ruhan is the nearest bank branch. She is aware that 20,000 gold is remaining from the 100,000 her mother left. She ponders that she heard on the way here that the bank has hired a lot of mercenaries to protect it. The border that Sun crossed was also blocked with magic through the war will not be any better. She thinks that she will be able to pick up the money in a year. She is aware that 20,000 gold means 10 years of money to live in abundance. If she finds the money, she will have to give Lakshan a reward. She is aware that she cannot be mean to her life savior. She wonders how much should she give to him? She decides to change her clothes first and eat breakfast. As she changes her clothes, she wonders if there is any mirror. She looks around the room trying to find her, but she realizes there is nothing. Her eyes sets on something as she picks it up and notices it is a sketch of Lakshan with a woman. She wonders who is this woman. She is aware that he never told her that he was dating someone, but then she realizes that he did not need to tell her as all they have is just a marriage contract. She finds a mole on his face as she realizes it is not Lakshan. Lakshan asks her from outside the room if she is awake. She responds that she is awake as she gets startled. He questions if she slept well and tells her that it suits her well. She is confused before he points at her clothes, mentioning that those clothes suits her well. It looks like a skirt, but it is actually pants because it is sewn inside. She tells him that northern clothes are really comfortable, and she can put a lot of things in her pocket as well. She shows him the drawing she found in the drawer while looking for the mirror. She apologizes to him, mentioning that she looked at it without his permission. She tells him that it is a fine drawing and his expressions are well drawn. He seems surprised seeing the drawing as he tells her that this is not him. She questions if that is really the case, as well as telling him that it looks just like him. Cheap wonder. So that means it is not Lakshan's girlfriend? She finds it relieving before she suddenly wonders what is she relieved about. He tells her that it has been a long time since he saw this picture too. The person who resembles Lakshan is his father, and the woman beside him is his mother. He ponders that he remembers his father burned all of his mother's portrait and guesses that his father could not burn this one. He thanks her as she seems confused about it. He tells her that if she did not find this, it would be in the drawer forever. and its existence would be forgotten. She tells him that she came across it by chance too. She ponders that she mistook her for his girlfriend. He ponders that he said she is his mother to her without realizing it. They both think that it will be all right. She asks him where is his parents as she is unable to see them. He responds that both of his parents are dead. She apologizes to him for asking. He tells her that there's nothing to be sorry about. He tells her that they should eat breakfast quickly and go see the house. She asks him how about a simple vegetable soup for breakfast? He responds that sounds delicious, and then he will go and get some water. He asks her that they should choose a good house from the empty houses, and they can move if the owner comes back. She responds that would be amazing, as well as asking if it would be all right if they do not pay. He tells her that his friend must pay her as a house quickly turns into a deserted one if no one lives there. She responds that it is true. She ponders that the hut she used to live in was a ruined house at first, by sweeping, cleaning, and organizing every day, and it's startled to feel like a habitable place. She ponders that actually she likes Lakshan's house, so she wants to fix it first. She is aware that she should not be greedy though. He asks if they should go and find a house now. She responds all right. She ponders that they should not do any more harm as she expresses that the weather is so nice. He wonders if his house is uncomfortable as he expects it to be. He calls out to her and asks her if she has any requirements for the house that she wants. She tells him that she wants the kitchen to be big, and there should be an oven too. He asks her if there is anything else that she would also like in the new house. She tells him that she also wants a well in the backyard. She wishes that it is close to Lakshan's house. He thinks about it and realizes that it is Cheyenne's house. It also saw that it is his friend's house and it will be easier to talk with the landlord comes back. He suddenly becomes surprised as he notices some footsteps, realizing that someone already went inside. He has no idea who it is as he tells her to wait for a second and checks the footprints. He realizes this footprints is of Cheyenne. Cheyenne suddenly opens the door and calls out to Eloise. Lakshan asks him what is he doing here? He responds that he did not have anything to do, so he was repairing the other houses. Lakshan asks if he means he was repairing Cheyenne's house. He tells them that they are not even that close. He responds that he can still do it even if they are not close. Cheyenne asks if Eloise would like to take a look inside, mentioning that he thinks that it looks good inside there, making Lakshan frustrated. Lakshan tells her that Cheyenne has a great personality and likes to organize things. The house was always clean and there's even an oven in the kitchen. Eloise ponders that Lakshan's kitchen is a little bigger. She wonders if it would be okay to use alone. He tells her that he thinks this one is the bedroom. As he opens it, he is stunned to find the wall broken, questioning what is even wrong with the wall. Lakshan and Eloise are speechless as Cheyenne breaks it down that this is what he was trying to repair. He tells them that they cannot sleep here, the hole is this big. He tells Eloise that he does not think this is the right one. Lakshan thinks that the hole looks recent and wonders what is Cheyenne up to. Lakshan bumps in as he tells Eloise to go next door as it will be all right there. Cheyenne blushes as he thinks that this is a chance to get a girlfriend for Lakshan. He thinks that if it is about a girl, then he knows how to make him suffer. Flashback, girls would try to hit on him. Even once a girl told him that she would want him to live with her when he grows up. Cheyenne ponders that even on the battlefield it was a mess. The girl grabbed both his hands and asked him to be her partner. An other girl ran after him stating that he was her partner, but all he could do was run for his dear life as he did not want to be anyone's partner. Cheyenne asked him if there was anyone that he liked, but he responded not at all. Cheyenne stated that at this rate he was going to die without a partner. Lakshan responded that he did not need a partner as Cheyenne questioned what. Lakshan responded that he is tired and he will never get one. Cheyenne sighed as he found Lakshan a poor guy, and so Cheyenne almost gave up until Lakshan introduced Eloise. He mentioned that as she's an acquaintance, daughter, and she had nowhere to go. He observed them both and saw them smiling so beautifully. He knew that this was going to work. He told all of his friends that there is something that they must do for Lakshan. He pondered that even if this was not going to work, he would make it work. In another house, the roof is broken. Eloise mentions that the war must have been serious as there is no decent home. Lakshan knows about it as he calls his friends punks. Cheyenne sighs and tells them they have yet to find a suitable place. He recommends why doesn't Eloise stay with Lakshan. Lakshan freaks out and curses, thinking he's trying to do whatever he can to get them together. He contemplates revealing the truth and letting them know that he and Eloise are legally married and they should stop being nosy. But he is aware that if he did, that they will bother her even more. He groans, thinking she will be leaving after a year after all. Eloise's eyes light up as she spots something. emitting a surprised squeal before kneeling down and excitedly informing them that it's basil she's found. She then wonders how there can be so much basil growing on this path. Lakshan informs her that this is Anand's farm. It's overrun with weeds now, but it used to be his friend's farm. He further reveals he did grow grain, but he was also interested in special plants and planted a variety of seedlings, including different herbs. He thinks a few of them are still growing. She smiles in excitement, acknowledging he is right when she notices there are other herbs here as well. She then notices a house nearby and asks Lakshan, "What's that building over there?" Lakshan looks at it and mutters that it looks like a warehouse and there's probably some farming equipment inside. Suddenly, other people scream Kian and Lakshan's names, then hastily chase after them. It's Ethan, Rakman, and Darus. Aloes greets them with a smile. They excitedly ask what's for lunch today, hoping for meat. Ethan chirps he is fine with anything as long as there are loads of it. She tells them today's lunch is basil pesto pasta. Basil pesto is a sauce made by combining basil, garlic, pine nuts, oil, and grated cheese. She reveals she saw a lot of pasta stored in the pantry. In an instant, their moods plummet, revealing the disappointment etched upon their faces. Observing the shift in their demeanor, Aloes becomes anxious and tentatively asks, "What is it?" Ethan blurts it's a basil plant as if it is not obvious. He adds eating leafy stuff won't give them the strength they need. However, she brightens their spirits with a warm smile, announcing that she's going to grill some meat and potatoes, instantly lifting their moods. They ask, "Really? Is she really going to make all of that?" However, Lakshan intervenes, delivering a light whack to their heads and sternly warning them to eat whatever they're served. Aloes startles and pleads with him not to do that. Before Ethan can retaliate, she swiftly intervenes, shielding him with her body and urging him not to hit him. Ethan looks dumbfounded, reminding her that he started it. Her face twists in worry as she pleads with him not to hurt him because he is a weak man. They all look at her dumbfounded, unable to comprehend what she just said. She thinks she knew right from the start that Lakshan was frail, and he's the most feeble-looking one here. She then changes the topic abruptly, asking them to lend her a hand as she needs them to help her pick all of these basil leaves. But they all wonder, what on earth has their chief done? She cautiously plucks the leaves of basil, warning them that they can die if they pick off all the leaves at once, so they should take the bigger ones and not touch the others, as that way they can pick more after they have grown again. She tells Ethan, Rakman, and Darus to fill this bag with basic leaves and for Can and Caden to follow her. Lakshan asks Aloes what are the other ingredients that need to be prepared. She replies they need to slice the potatoes and onions and then boil the pasta. He tells her they can help her with the simpler tasks, and he is sure those guys can prepare some potatoes and onions. The guys scream in union, of course they can, and ask her to leave it to them. She smiles at them, telling them it would be great. She tells Kian that she will leave the potatoes to him and Kugan can do the onions. Kian asks, isn't it difficult making everything from scratch? He tells the merchants sell pre-made ingredients as well, so she doesn't need to do everything herself. He adds they never order any because they don't know how to use them. But if she wants, he can order some for her. She assures him that it's oak. It's a lot tastier and cheaper to use fresh basil leaves, and they need to save as much money as they can. She says if it can be grown, then it will be growing here. He asks, but who is going to do that? She raises her hand and replies she will. She reveals to them she used to have her own garden. It was a small one though. Speaking of which, she asks them if she can borrow this plot of land. Lakshan says no problem, Anand hasn't returned yet. He then asks Kian, he's in charge of ordering the groceries, right? After his nod, he says he would like to take a look at the list. There are things he wants to add and things to take out too. Aloes says she would like to know the price of everything. He says he doesn't know what the prices are, but then is reminded of the purchases receipts and offers to bring it to her. After she tells him she appreciates it, he dashes off to bring it. Aloes then diverts her attention to Lakshan, asking him if he thinks they could sell their products to the merchants. He questions if she wants to sell the excess. She smiles at him and says yes, maybe it's her mother's influence, but it would be wonderful if they could make some money. He states that is true and tells her he will ask Kian about it later. Thinking of the devil, and the devil rushes back, Kian shouts at the top of his lungs that he has found them. He hands over the purchase receipts to her. After thanking him, she rustles through them. He rubs the back of his head, claiming it was good of him to keep them. How he can be really detail-oriented. While Aloes' mouth drops open as she thinks she has never seen such awful receipts in her life. She thinks a receipt should have the quantity of goods along with the prices, but it doesn't even list the details of the item or their prices. He says he didn't even want to give this to him, he just barely managed to get it from him. She tells him the prices here in the north may have gone up, but still this is outrageous. She believes 3 gold would have been more than enough for everything here and literally 5 gold for just delivery. Cain scratches the side of his head anxiously as he explains that they said the delivery fees are high because they need to go around the mountains to reach them. She questions are cargo wagons expensive here. Lakshan explains that the villages are all far apart from each other, so everyone has one. When she asks if he does too, he nods and says he did, but someone must have used it when they fled because he can't seem to find it. She asks him how much does one cost. He states a small wagon costs 50 gold, but a big one can be more than 100. She is shaking in anger as she realizes the merchant charges 1/10 of the price of a wagon for a mere delivery fee. He's overcharging them because they don't know any better. She then questions Cain when is the merchant's next visit. He states he comes once a week, so tomorrow. That's good, she replies, and then asks, does he mind if she orders the groceries from now on? He laughs because why would he mind? That would help him a lot. He says he has been buying whatever he recommended to him, so when there were leftover ingredients, he didn't know what to do with them. He then hands over to her a money bag, saying everyone adds 5 gold a week, so there should be about 40 left. She is shocked and says 5, because 1 is more than enough. He questions really? Because they are fine with paying that much. He assures her that she doesn't need to contribute any money. She inquires why not. He explains to her that they talked about it yesterday and agreed that it's pretty hard for her to cook all of their meals every day. She thinks that's true. He informs her so instead of asking her to add to the grocery fund, they would like to pay her 10 gold weekly for her services. She gasps and says what? And assures them it's okay. She offered to cook because she enjoys it. Lakshan steps in and tells her no, this is something they requested of her. They asked her to make lunch for them, so it's only right to pay her for it. He further adds he knows she enjoys cooking, but she's only human and there will be days that she doesn't want to do it. She thinks it must come from being a mercenary, but Lakshan is so precise when it comes to compensation. They believe if she doesn't get paid, she will end up hating something she used to love doing. Lakshan says, and they wouldn't want that to happen. He also adds that she has to rest on the weekends, otherwise she will get sick. He also requires her to let them know in advance if she's going to be away doing something. She whispers to him, aren't these conditions too good toward her? Lakshan then raises a list and tells her to look at everything those pigs wrote down. They actually came up with a lot of dishes they want to eat. Kian says she doesn't understand how happy they are that she has offered to cook for them. She smiles shyly, saying, wow, this is quite a responsibility she has taken on. Later in the kitchen, Kian and Kugan both help her wash the potatoes and boil them well. She tells Lakshan she needs to borrow his hands and tells him to squeeze the boiled basil leaves. She then looks at the list of food they want to eat and notices Lakshan's name is not written on the list. She asks him about it, but he assures her she doesn't need to worry about him as he is sure it's a lot of work just dealing with them. He doesn't want to add any pressure, but she doesn't feel pleased about it because she wants to make him something he likes too. He smiles at her to lighten the mood and says it's ok and blurts he's done and asks what's next. Her eyes twinkle as she says perfect now and then instructs to mix together the basil leaves, pine nuts, and olive oil. He rattles the handle. She encourages him to do it a bit harder and quickly. He obeys and she keeps encouraging him, cheering him on saying that's it, he's doing well. She says she will finally grate some cheese, but he looks rather concerned, pondering this is too much work for her. It would be better to just buy it at the market in a bigger village. She announces the basil pesto is ready. She delicately lifts the spoon brimming with the aromatic sauce, extending it towards him, inviting him to taste it. He munches it and gasps in shock, telling her it's delicious. He grabs the bottle while admitting this tastes totally different from what he had at restaurants and their pesto wasn't as fragrant and the oil actually had a rancid flavor. She says it must have been old. That's what pesto tastes like if they leave it in the storage for a long time. He takes another big bite. She snatches it from him, telling him to stop eating. But she's glad he likes it. She declares she will make something that will make this taste even better. He cannot believe it can be better than it already is now. The table is filled with delicious food, including the pesto pasta. As the guys come in, they exclaim it smells amazing. It smells like some restaurant in the capital. She beams at them and tells them to go wash their hands. In a matter of a short time, only empty plates remain on the table, signaling that every morsel of food has been thoroughly enjoyed and savored. The guys' faces lit up with satisfaction and delight as they state that was delicious, and express their gratitude for the meal. Lakshan pours some tea for her and shouts at them that if they're done eating, they should go do the dishes. As they're washing the dishes, they think they should clean the rest of the kitchen too, and soon the tasks are being divided among the men. Cain thinks they used to be so weak since they only ate boiled potatoes all the time. He then turns his attention to Eloise, revealing to her that before her these rascals never had energy and were always so silent. Just yesterday, they talked about what they wanted to eat while reminiscing about the past. His eyes sparkle as he says this is all thanks to her amazing food. Dramatically, he offers her his hand and asks if she will marry him. Lakshan thinks he's only saying that because he doesn't take marriage seriously as a northerner, but being from the Empire, it might be really important for Eloise. Eloise jokes that if he picks the rest of the basil, she will think about it. He joins in her joke and quips, that sounds like a challenge to him. Lakshan stands there uncomfortably and wonders maybe he's the one who did not take marriage seriously. He did jump into this right away, saying documents were important to northerners. He wonders if it is his fault that she thinks northerners are not serious about marriage. He snaps out of his thoughts when Kian asks what's wrong. He teases him asking if he suddenly feels the urge to go pick basil. An angry Lakshan flings him from the kitchen with the excuse to bring some wooden planks from his house. Eloise asks what does he need wooden planks for? Is he going to repair something? He explains he was thinking of making a support for her feet. She seems to be struggling to cook properly because the counters are so high. However, she refuses to have one, saying he doesn't need to make her one while reminding him she will be leaving soon anyway, so she doesn't need it. She thinks should have gone house hunting instead of cleaning stupid. She then remembers the last house they saw today looked quite nice. Worry and anxiousness etched across his face. He warns her that she needs to be careful when choosing a house to live in, because if she rushes things and ends up having to move again, that would be an even bigger hassle. He assures her not to worry about staying here at his place for a while. He offers, or perhaps they could continue to, but stops himself in time. She inquires continue to what? His face reddens as he tries to tell her, but before he can, Kian bursts through the door announcing he is back. She thinks he did not ask her to keep living here with him, while he wonders how could he ask her that. Later he's smashing the woods when she asks him where Kian lies. Alarm courses through him, his face tightening with displeasure as he questions why does she want to know that. She looks at him like it is obvious. She asks him why else, obviously because he is staying there. If something happens then, she would know where to find him. He feels relieved when he realizes she's asking to look for him. She also wants to know the location of where the rest of the men live too, as that way she can drop by if she makes any food. But he tells her that won't be necessary. He is sure they will come looking for her here. He grins, thinking to himself she wants to come see him, not Kian. He ends up making the wooden support for her and questions what does she think. Does she like it? She smiles and tells him it's perfect. She thinks if she kept living here, there would be no need to make a new one, but then realizing where her thoughts are heading to, she reminds herself she shouldn't raise her hopes for nothing. Beaming, she expresses her gratitude to him. He informs her he will get going now and tells her to make sure she locks the door tightly. He questions. She has the pipe he gave her, right? She shows him her necklace and says yes, it is attached to her necklace. They wave at each other at the door, saying they will meet tomorrow. But once the door shuts, her mood drops because now that everyone's gone, it's a bit scary being alone. She ascends the stairs carefully and wishes Lakshan stayed here with her. The merchant arrives the next day, his face betraying greed with a smirk as he thinks, time for another hefty payday. Kian, Eloise, and Lakshan await him with their arms crossed. With a fake smile on her face, Eloise introduces herself. He has his back on her as he greets her and says he needs to quickly unload and leave, so they should give him the payment first. Kian, however, lets him know from now on Eloise will be placing the orders and taking care of the payment, so he should talk to her. Confused, he repeats this lady is going to be in charge. The misogynist asks if a young lady like her can tell what products are good and passes her the potatoes stored in the sack. She thinks she knew it and grabs the sack, tossing it onto the floor, causing it to burst open and spill potatoes all over the ground. He kneels and starts gathering his potatoes, asking what is she doing. She lets him know they won't be buying these potatoes. Truthfully, they are not worth paying money for. He shouts at her what does she mean. She raises the potato in her hand with the intention to show it to him and say, see this, they're not only rotten, but they're starting to sprout, believing potatoes like these shouldn't be sold at all. She further adds this can make people sick, and since they are moldy, They are not even useful as seed potatoes. He is surprised she can tell what product is bad. He tries to defend himself by muttering he did not sell things like this from the start. Cain, who is watching it all, whispers to Lakshan she is so charming. He then blames his customers by saying who would not take advantage of a customer who doesn't even check the quality and pays whatever amount he tells him. He groans, thinking he thought he could get with it for a while. Suddenly he changes his attitude and lies that he must have brought the wrong ones and he won't charge her for this so she can just have them. She tells him to take them back. They will just end up as trash here, and says these are the receipts that cover up until last week. But there are many issues too. She reads the receipt and tells him it says there he sold them saffron in the past. She shows him a small bottle and says, well, she took a look in the storage room, and is he saying that this is saffron? She recalls her mother telling that when soaked in water, real saffron turns out to be a beautiful golden color, but fake saffron turns out to be a dark reddish color. That's because very strong dye is used to create the redness, and because it's so easy to discern fake saffron from real saffron, merchants selling fake saffron often mix in the dyed threads with real ones. So when she inspected the saffrons yesterday, it all turned out to be fake. The threads were not even infused with a scent. She even scolded Cain that why did he buy this in the first place? He explained to her that everyone was really worn out after the war ended, and he heard that drinking saffron-infused tea could help chase away bad memories attached to the war, and that it also helped with sleep. That is why he bought it, but to think that it was fake. He looked guilty, but she assured him that it wasn't his fault. They should be blaming the person who sold it to him. Back in the present, she inquires did he know that this entire bottle is fake? He flinches and says what does she mean by fake? He claims he has been doing business in this area for decades. Does she really think he would sell fake saffron? She says if he's a merchant, he should know how to tell the difference between the two. She says at least some people mix in fake threads. But this is a complete sham. Does he have a conscience? He realizes he needs to get out of here and shouts that he won't take this insult any longer. He snatches the bottle from her hand, saying since she insists that they're not real, he will take the bottle back and tosses the money to her. He lies that he went through the trouble of sourcing this from a far-off place, and she has the nerve to tell him it's fake. He is freaked out inside, but manages to keep the scowl on his face as he says he won't come here anymore with goods so they should fend for themselves. As he leaves, he screams after him to stop. She's not done talking. Cain and Lakshan glance at each other, and with a nod, Lakshan says today's one of those days he feels like taking on a special assignment. Cain smirks and says he knows what that means. He wouldn't mind taking a run either. They run after the man. Eventually, the man has been tied. While Lowe's screams at him that she simply won't tolerate this and questions who's the lord of this area. She will need to repeat this man to the authorities. The man begs her to not do anything like that. He tells her this territory is owned by Lord Harkin, and he doesn't want to upset him. She crosses her arms and seems to think about it, and then tosses a paper on the floor telling him to sign it. When he reads, it is written that he acknowledges there have been issues with the goods he has supplied so far, and in order to compensate, he will deliver quality goods that Lowe's wants once a week for the next year. She tells him this is the result of a scam. While the guys appreciate her for her work and Cain's stomach growls, prompting him to ask what's for lunch today. She knows he and Lakshan have been busy since the morning, so she decides to make tomato salad using the basil they all picked yesterday and steak with mushroom sauce. Lakshan with a surprised look questions if she is really intending to pick this one. He questions her about the hole in the bedroom wall. She tells him that she'll use another room that doesn't have the hole, stating that there is a study she found with a small bedroom inside, and it's perfect for her height too. Lakshan sweats as he ponders that she can just keep staying at his house, and he will sleep in the living room. She seems very excited as she mentions that they should move her stuff today. Lakshan is dumbfounded as Cain wishes for him to not give up. Lakshan sighs as he mentions sure, causing Cain to internally scream. Lakshan tells her that once they're done moving they can go and greet the farm people, stating that it's only a few chickens and sheep for now. He states that they won't have trouble sourcing eggs or milk from now on. Cain trembles as Lowe's excitedly states that as great as being able to source dairy products from nearby is the best. Cain finds both of them so clueless and decides to give up. Lakshan tells her all right and mentions that he and Cain will go and get rest of her things, and in the meantime she can go and take a look around. She thanks him as she is filled with excitement, mentioning that it's time to check out Annan's farm. She mentions that he might have herbs that they don't, Suddenly something passes down her as she becomes stunned, wondering what was that. She leans in, realizing that it was pretty big. She looks around as she mentions that it ran away when it saw her, so it must not be dangerous. She sweats as she realizes that it scared her. She sits down to collect some herbs because she's anxious as she notices that someone is staring at her. She remembers Lakshan's words when he said that the animals here aren't particularly dangerous. She grabs onto a rock as she gulps and glances around. She steps forward, positioning to attack as she asks, "Who is this?" A woman appears and flinches, asking her to not throw it. Aloes lowers her arm as she asks the woman about her identity. The woman introduces herself as Lisa and mentions that she lives on the farm at the end of the village. She asks if she's Aloes. Aloes questions if Lisa knows who she is. Lisa responds that Qian came by their farm this morning and asked her to say hello to her if they ever ran into each other. Lisa continues that she thought Aloes might be the person he was talking about as she followed her then. Aloes throws away the stone as she nervously states that she was just startled because she sensed she was being followed. She asks Lisa how can she help her. Questioning, isn't Lisa's farm at the opposite end of the village? Lisa seems frustrating as she states that she came here to have a word with Qian. When he came this morning, he asked for some eggs, so she told him to take them. But then he left the coop door open and now 3 of her chickens are gone. She questions in anger what is he going to do about her chickens. She places her hand on Loz's shoulder and mentions they should go. They leave as the plate rustles and a being stares at them. Lisa smacks Qian as Qian is upset. He mentions that it wasn't him as he definitely remembers closing it. She continues to slap him as she questions who could it be. She states that he is the one who went inside the coop this morning. Lakshan asks of all things how could he forget to close the door. Qian complains that it really wasn't him and finds it really frustrating. Qian bows to Lisa as he apologizes to her and mentions that he will pay for the chickens. She responds that is not the issue. She angrily responds that she doesn't want his money and asks him to go to Deva Cattle Market and get her new chickens. She states that she wants healthy hens and 6 of them. He asks her why 6 when she only lost 3. Qian cries as he asks her to stop hitting him. She also tells him while he is at the market he should get her 2 wolf dogs if they have any, as she wants puppies. Qian tells her that she is taking advantage of him. Lakshan and Aloes both laugh as they mention that they should let Qian figure out. Aloes asks Lakshan if there is such a thing as a wolf dog. She is told that they are dogs raised on northern farms. They are a cross between a dog and a gray wolf. They're a bit hard to tame, but once you have their loyalty it lasts forever. Aloes thinks maybe she should raise one herself. She ponders if she did. She thinks she wouldn't feel scared at night even if she's all alone. Lisa steps in and informs her that they are really difficult to handle. That is why they must get them when they are young, as when they are older it is very hard to teach them. Lisa continues as she mentions that she has had experience raising them ever since she was a little girl, and for most people they run off while being tamed. Lisa waves her goodbye as Aloes waves back. Lakshan asks her if she likes dogs. Aloes responds that she likes all animals, but she is not sure she'd do a good job raising any since she has never done it before. She knows if she does end up doing it, she will have to start with an animal that is easy to handle. She calls out to Lakshan and asks if he is busy. He tells her no and asks her why. He asks if she needs his help with something else. She responds no, but mentions that she'll like to go to Anand's warehouse. Lakshan mentions all right and asks her if she would like to go now. She responds sure as she mentions that she should just put this in her room. She tells him that she'll be right back. She notices the door is open as she wonders if she left the door open. She slightly steps in and questions if someone is in here. There's no sound as she wonders if she forgot to close the door. She realizes that Lakshan told her to make sure that she shuts it and knows that she should be more careful. She decides to just go quickly and get her bag. Lakshan shows her Anand's warehouse and she becomes really excited as she mentions that those are rosemary and they're perfect for getting rid of that unique smell that meat has. She begins to gather them as she tells Lakshan that Daruz told her he'd catch some fish for her. So it's all great for getting rid of the smell of freshwater fish. Lakshan removes the door before Aloes asks if he is sure that he can remove the door like that. He responds that he'll fix it when Anand returns and asks her to come on in. She stares at him as she ponders that Lakshan is strong too. She steps in as she is filled with astonishment, realizing that this is more like a greenhouse than a warehouse. She becomes really excited as she notices something, and she reaches for it. The names of herbs are written, which are rosemary, chervil, fennel, etc. She notices how they're the name of herbs as she's surprised finding seeds. She cannot believe all of these are seeds. Lakshan calls out to her and tell her that there are tubers as well. She calls out to him and asks him about Anand's job. Lakshan nervously responds that he was a unique person and an eccentric person who spent more time in his garden than he did at home. He continues that he doesn't know how, but he used to make strange things. She questions what strange things, such as tomatoes would grow on the stem while potatoes grow on the roots of the same plant. She finds it unbelievable as she asks him if that is even possible. Lakshan responds yes, as he had that they have been crafted. He states that means, but they ended up throwing more tomatoes and potatoes because they did not taste good. She is shocked as she ponders. That is what a waste. Lakshan goes ahead and continues that he occasionally made useful things as well. For example, wheat that did not get knocked on easily even in storms or fall victim to locusts. Anand's form was often the only one that made it out unscathed. That is why there were rumors that he learned magic from mages, which was not true though. Aloes mentions that was a pioneer, though in the field of seed improvement. He smiles with her as he ponders that his image has suddenly improved. Improving seeds is the kind of research that requires a lot of money and people. So he heard there was very little progress made, even in the north, but they knew that there was someone in the northern countryside that carried out in all kinds of experiments. He calls out to her and questions if there's anything that she needs from here. She tells him that she needs farming tools as she was actually planning on buying all of these. But this is great. She states that if they are not sharp enough, she will ask Kian to freshen them up. She finds the sickle, and that hoe mentioning that she will take them both. She states as for the seats and tubers, she remembers that she phoned them before, but the man informed her that they cannot be sold. She asked him if he mind if she takes them, so he told her no, she can go ahead. She's aware that if she cut off the moldy parts and plant them, she might be able to eat them later. She planted the mentions that she will be at the tomatoes soon. She wishes for them to grow just as well as the tomatoes have. She is shocked to find them withering. She has no idea what happened, as she is aware that even if the seeds are gathered from healthy plants, the germination rate will decrease and they will slowly start getting moldy or even rot after 2 to 3 years. And tubers that already want could completely ruin an entire garden. She ponders that she was able to find out the reason after reading through many books, but in the end she had to give up on that garden and cultivate a new one. She seems determined as she ponders that she will make sure to grow this valuable seeds before they rot. She pulls her bag, which is heavy as hell before Lakshan, smiles and asks her to put it down. She tells him that she can carry it all, and also mentions that when Anand returns she's going to repay him. He grabs the bag from her as he asks her why she's working so hard. She flinches as she questions, what does he mean? He tells her that she's paying too much attention on cooking and not farming, as he thought she was just doing it as a hobby. But he states it looks like she's more passionate about it than expected. She mentions that she's doing it because she wants to take care of the village. He asks her what does she mean by that. She stared straight. She saw several villages on their way here, and it was quite easy to tell whether they were abandoned or not. He asks her how soon, as she tells him that even if a village has run-down houses or no shop, if people are living there, they all have a well-kept garden. She ponders that she knows she could just spend the year leisurely, which she lives here, and she would like to help improve it in any little way she can. And if an Elden village can take care of its gardens, then travelers just like them who are passing through can, then maybe she wouldn't have to leave either. She tells him that they will know that people actually live here. She feels a bit awkward as she states that is what she was thinking. But if he does not like it, then he should tell her, because she will try to do it more discreetly. He questions, so not doing it all is not one of the options. He tells her that she knows doing it discreetly will most likely be possible, as he grins. He leans over as he places his hand around her face, mentioning because he will always be watching her.